The 48th ASEAN Economic Ministers Meeting, or 48 AEM, and its related meetings concluded on Saturday in Vientiane with the adoption of priorities to pursue 2025 vision and expand cooperation with dialogue partners.
Our meetings during these days have delivered a number of important outcomes.
The Minister of Industry and Commerce of Laos, which chairs ASEAN this year, Madam Khemmani Pholsena, told a press conference on Saturday that the meeting running over the last week yielded a number of successful outcomes.
First, the adoption of the priority deliverable for Lao PDR's Chairmanship, namely ASEAN Trade Facilitation Framework.
Highlighting the outcomes, she said that the ASEAN ministers adopted priority deliverables for Laos ASEAN Chairmanship under established ASEAN economic pillars. To this end, the ministers have endorsed a trade facilitation framework, a food safety regulatory framework, ASEAN institutional framework on access to finance for micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSME, a report and work program on starting a business in ASEAN, as well as ASEAN guidelines for special economic zone development and collaboration. A Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, or CLMV framework development plan was also adopted. The ASEAN ministers also adopted a sectoral work plan to operationalize the ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint 2025. Throughout the week, the ministers launched the ASEAN Solutions for Investments, Services and Trade, or ASIS, which is an internet-based business-friendly facility for receiving and responding to complaints submitted by ASEAN-based businesses. They also launched the ASEAN Tariff Finder, which is a new practical tool for businesses, particularly MSMEs, in the form of a non-cost online search engine to obtain up-to-date information on tariff-related information applied by ASEAN member states and their Free Trade Agreement, or FTA, partners under the various ASEAN +1 FTAs.
Tools for user-friendly for business community. I myself very impressed with this tool, and I think that ASEAN business community as well as our trading partners can
According
really
to Madam Khemmani, the ASEAN business community as well as our trading partners can really make use of this tool to access information.
We just launched this tool.
During their meetings, the ministers hailed that ASEAN recorded total merchandise trade amounting to $2.28 trillion in 2015, with foreign direct investment, or FDI, inflows to ASEAN standing at $120 billion in the same year.
Encompassing 10 member states, ASEAN is one of the most diverse.
ASEAN's relatively robust economic performance in 2015, the ministers expected that the continued moderation in the Chinese economy, China's top trading partner, and the uncertainties after the UK voted to leave the EU, ASEAN's third largest trading partner, could affect ASEAN's
production,
growth.
delivering freer movement of goods, services, skilled labor, and capital. ASEAN includes 200.
The ASEAN ministers have also held a number of meetings with their dialogue partners. In said meetings, the economic ministers of ASEAN, Australia, and New Zealand discussed ways to deepen cooperation. Total merchandise trade between ASEAN, Australia, and New Zealand grew to $60.3 billion in 2015, while FDI flowing from Australia and New Zealand to ASEAN amounted to $7.4 billion in 2015.
With the agenda for a global ASEAN, We will continue to realize trade agreements with major partners to turn ASEAN into a hub for global value chains.
Meeting with the +3 countries, China, Japan, and Republic of Korea, the ministers noted that ASEAN total trade with the three countries amounted to $708.6 billion in 2015, with FDI flows from the countries into ASEAN were valued at $31 billion over that year.
Ministers also
ASEAN and Russian economic ministers welcomed their trade that reached $13.4 billion in 2015, placing Russia as ASEAN's 8th largest trading partner. ASEAN and the U.S. also noted the performance of ASEAN-U.S. bilateral trade and investment, with merchandise trade reaching $212.8 billion, while services trade reached almost $40 billion. ASEAN and Indian ministers were pleased to note ASEAN-India total merchandise trade reached $58.7 billion, placing India as ASEAN's 6th largest trading partner. At their talks, ASEAN and Canadian economic ministers welcomed their bilateral trade and investment that showed two-way merchandise trade had grown significantly, up 13.8% to $21.4 billion Canadian dollars in 2015. During the week, economic ministers from all ASEAN member countries, Australia, China, India, Japan, the Republic of Korea, New Zealand, the Russian Federation, and the United States also met for the 4th East Asia Summit, or EES, Economic Ministers meeting.
Laos warmly welcomes all ASEAN economic ministers and associated delegates for the 48th ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting and related meetings held in Vientiane from July 31st to August 6, 2016.